All of our myths today are built around this idea of drainage and really healthy soil. So we'll explore the most common myths involved with those issues. Hi, I'm John Valentino, president of John and Bob's Corporation. I'm a landscape contractor and a landscape architect and also a general engineering contractor. I'm here with Chip Valentino, who's looking really great this morning, and I combed my hair, so we're ready for you. The whole video is built around gardening myths, and I think if the myth is harmless, you won't hear me talk much about it. But if it's something that costs you more money than you need to spend and maybe produces deleterious results, that's a gardening myth that we need to dispel, and those are the ones I'm interested in. And the first one we're going to start with today is the answer is no, you should not. It doesn't improve drainage. What we want to avoid in every situation in gardening is interfaces. And that is where you have material of a certain texture, where it's soil, whether it's soil or gravel or whatever, interfacing with a completely different texture. And in this case, if we put a bunch of gravel in the bottom of the pot and then we fill the rest up with a really good quality potting soil, that potting soil will not drain into and through the gravel until the top layer, which is a completely different texture, becomes saturated. It doesn't just go through the soil and go through the rock. Because of the differences in tension and texture, it needs to become saturated first, and we don't want saturation, we want drainage. So you are impeding drainage when you put a layer of gravel like this. So we've got a really nice pot here we got from Architectural Pottery, and many pots have a big hole in the middle for drainage, which is important, and sometimes they have more than one hole. The one time when gravel or rocks of some type are appropriate is in just very isolated instances if you want to diffuse the way the water rushes through that drainage hole. And so you can use a rock or two like I have here. I have some big river rock, and you can place them right in front of the hole and then put the potting soil on top, and you still will get good drainage, and you haven't created any interface, just a minor interface right there at the hole. But that kind of isolated use of gravel in a pot is appropriate. So you have this hole, and it could be with very firm, hard sides and a firm bottom. And again, what you're doing is you're creating lots of interfaces where you have a completely different textured material going up against the native soil. And the native soil is what we want the plants to root out into. So we want to try to come up with a way of planting plants where we don't have interfaces. So if we dig a big hole, we break the sides up, we break the bottom up, and if we're going to use some kind of different material, we mix the two together. We try to minimize the interface. And even most soil scientists recommend you use the native soil for the backfill. And if you use the native soil, then what we like to do is, instead of using any kind of amendment, we usually use the native soil. Then we use lots of inoculants, basically our products, which won't change the texture of the soil, but they'll allow the soil to become infused with life. What we're doing is we're putting now in this backfill is native soil. There's no strong interface. We've got good drainage, hopefully. That's our goal, rather than creating this bathtub effect where we dig soil and dig a hole in one type of soil and fill it with a different kind of soil. We want to avoid that. Sand won't improve your clay soil. I guess if you put 80% sand and 20% clay, that would be true, but it's physically impossible to use enough sand in soil to make anything other than concrete. And that's what you get in your typical proportional blend of sand and clay soil. So we want to avoid making bricks if we're going to try to grow healthy tomatoes or beautiful peonies. You might notice in another video I talk about adding sand as part of a potting soil mix that might have a little bit of soil or clay soil in it, and that's fine if your percentage of other ingredients is so large that the mixture works and you won't create bricks. It seems to have started in about 1930 with some type of experiments that determined mistakenly that vitamin B1, if you buy and apply vitamin B1 when you transplant plants, so you put it in the backfill, that it will help with transplant shock and help growth of new roots. And so vitamin B1 became the go-to ingredient if you're doing any kind of transplanting. But we know through testing that has been ongoing now and kind of renewed every 10 or 15 years that vitamin B1 doesn't help at all with transplant shock, and it doesn't help at all with allowing those plants that you've transplanted or just planted to sprout new roots. What does help, probably the most important thing, the single most important thing, is to pay close attention to moisture. So do a really good job of watering, maybe even overwatering in the first day or two. I'd say that's the most important factor when you're transplanting. And then the other thing that we do in the soil is use our products in order to do a number of things. Have available nutrients that are gentle and absolutely can't burn the plant, but kind of every nutrient that a plant might need, including nitrogen, which frequently helps in transplanting, and infuses the soil with life. That's the best way to transplant. Focus on the watering, focus on the general health of the soil, and you'll have great success. B1 won't do anything. It won't help at all. Don't spend the money. So why don't you weigh in on your favorite gardening myths? I'd particularly like you to help us dispel gardening myths you're aware of. Let us know which gardening myth you think are completely mythical. The best way to improve your soil drainage is not with rocks or gravel, but with healthy soil and life in the soil. That's what our product line is focused on. Go to our website, johnandbobs.com. Look into simple, convenient, economical ways of improving everything about your soil and improving everything about the drainage in your soil. So last week's plant was Osmanthus fragrans, or sweet olive. And most notable about it is a delicious smelling little flower. This week's plant, I think, is very straightforward and easy. You could prove me wrong, but take a look at it and let us know what you think it is. And you'll earn yourself a 8-ounce bottle of Penetrate Liquid Biotiller. Click the link in the comments in order to submit your answer. We have another video where we talked about backfill and interfaces and drainage, and we related it to planting trees.